Welcome back to Fresh Faces New Ideas. My name's David. If you like this channel or you're new to the channel and want to keep up to date with all the videos that I post, please like and subscribe. Please follow me at Twitter at Faces Ideas, and that's how you'll keep up to date and know all the videos I do. So in this video, we're going to talk about the anti-riot law that's passed in Florida. It is not a good law. Their argument is we need to back the blue more and punish people for rioting more. However, what this does is it infringes on your First Amendment rights. It gives the police more power what constitutes a riot so that they can use force. It allows people to drive into protests. It is harsher penalties for what they deem to be rioting. It stops municipalities from changing how they fund their police force. It does a lot of bad things. A lot of it is the expansion of what is of the penalties for these crimes, and because Florida is one of those states that if you have a felony, you can't get the right to vote, regardless of whether it's like an aggressive felony or not. It will disenfranchise more people. So let's take a look at some of the articles talking about this, and we'll go over it some more. Okay, so here's the Combating Public Disorder Law. Here's some of the things it does. Allows the state to circumvent local authorities and punish municipalities that attempt to reduce or eliminate funding for law enforcement. So the amount of law funding we have for our law enforcement in the country is like absurd. I was looking for this chart and I can't seem to find it again, but it was something like if you added up all of the police funding across the country, it would be the fifth largest military budget in the world. So that's that funding. So what this is saying is you can't change how you fund your police, and if you do, we're going to punish you. And this is coming as a common theme from Republicans. We don't want you to change how you fund the police. And for corporations, if you decide to say that the things we are doing are bad because they are bad, we're going to punish you that way. So a lot of what they're using is their argument is, we don't want big government, but whatever government we have control over, we're going to use to punish the people we don't like. Allows businesses damaged or destroyed in lootings or riots to sue municipalities that don't provide law enforcement protection. So this is their argument that certain places were told to stand down, and that if your business is damaged or destroyed during whatever they consider as a riot, you can sue the local municipalities. So look, the other problem with this is this goes against their funding anyway. This is basically directing how municipalities have to send their funding. So it says that you have to spend more on the police and crack down on people who are allegedly doing riots and stuff. Look, let's be clear. Rioting is bad. Everyone can agree with that. Looting is bad. However, the percentage of looting and rioting is not overwhelming. We're not talking about every single one of these protests turning into a riot. This is not something that they're overreacting to, because 93% of the protests were positive, were peaceful. The people that start, generally, there has been an over response from the police, or as we saw in the first one in Minneapolis, the first person who started looting was somebody whose design was the Umbrella Man, and he was in there. And I'm sure most people have seen this. If not, I'll let me see if I can find it. Hold on. YouTube. Umbrella Man. Yeah, police. Yeah. So this is the Umbrella Man. Let's see if I can find it here. Okay, maybe here it is. Yeah. So it's this guy. This is the guy who started it in Minneapolis. He was just wearing this, he has a gas mask, he has this umbrella, and he just walked in and started smashing all the windows, and then he just walked away. So look, the other thing with this is, is this stops you. So if you are a municipality that wants to attempt to change how law enforcement is done, because that's part of the problem, that one of the problems this country is facing is how law enforcement is, carried out, how they're trained, the way they respond to things. You can't do this because now you have to put more money into law enforcement to provide more protection, because if they call something a riot, now that you might get sued. So it's that. Increase legal charges for people who assault anyone, including law enforcement, or damage property during a riot. So this, obviously, this is already legal. This just makes it worse. So by increasing the penalty, you make it harder for people to, just exist. Because look, officers, we've seen this. This is a thing that's happened. Is they'll call something a riot, and then they'll go after the people, and then they'll charge them with assaulting an officer. A lot of what this bill is increased power for the police. Provides prohibition on obstructing traffic by standing on the street. So what this does, this is the big one. It changes how you're allowed to protest in the street, because protests are allowed to block highways. That is your legal right if you have the permits and stuff. However, one of the things that this does is, let's see if I can find exactly where it does. Okay. It makes blocking a highway a felony, elevating it from a misdemeanor status. This also provides civil legal immunity who are those who are driving cars into crowds block the streets. Well, you'll say, okay, well, how big a deal is that? Well, cars have hit demonstrators at least 100 times since the protest has started. In over a year, they've hit over 100 people. So, this is the problem. If you look into the data of who drives a car into a protest, it's not left-wing people. It's not Antifa. It's a left-wing protest that get cars driven to them. And remember, part of the overall push against gun control is occasionally a terrorist organization will have a guy drive a truck through an area. And that's considered an act of terror. Here, they're decriminalizing this. They're saying, if you run over somebody in a protest, you can say, look, they're just blocking the street, so I'm just going to run them over. And you're okay with that. So this is literally allowing more people to die. That's what that push is for. So it prohibits protesters from using or threatening to use imminent force against another person. Now, the other problem with this is it's going to be selectively used. There is no chance that this particular statute is going to be used against right-wing protest. It just won't. Because that's just how it is. In general, left-wing protests are slapped down harder, although right-wing protests tend to be more violent. They're the ones who show up with the guns. They're the one more likely to fire on people. So this is not going... This is the biggest issue with the bill. It's not going to be enforced equally. Requires a person arrested for rioting to be held in custody until their first appearance in court. So this is more increasing our court system, increasing our bail. Prohibits defacing, injuring, or damaging a memorial or historic property, including flags. Now, this part is simply designed to protect the statues. Which statues in particular? Confederate statues. Look, the people who turned over Washington or Lincoln statues are stupid. But if you're protecting Robert E. Lee, Nathan Bedford Forrester, or people like that, that means you are against America, because that's what they did. So those statues should come down. But that's what this does. So the whole point of this law is to make sure that people don't protest, because it increases the ability for the police to respond to protest. One of the ways that they do this is they can declare a riot if there's 3 or more people acting in like an aggressive manner. So let's say there's thousands of people at this protest. If the police notice 3 people who are deemed to be aggressive. The whole protest is now a riot. And everyone falls under these increased scrutinies. Every single person, one of them is now subject to arrest. Every single one of them is now subject to police brutality. Every single one of them is now subject to be run over by a car. That's the type of thing that is in this bill. So part of the problem is that's not how you should handle a riot. You shouldn't overwhelmingly decide that everybody is now guilty. You should focus on what the actual problem is. And this has been too much of the problem with the BLM riots, or protest. The police have responded with an overwhelming use of force against the entirety of the protest, not against the people who are specifically causing problems. Because look, there's absolutely a group of people who are taking advantage of this. However, the idea that the whole BLM protest is painted as a terrorist organization is absurd. The other thing is how this who is this? The judge. He's the sheriff of Polk County. He had a press conference with DeSantis, and he said to the flock of pandemic newcomers to Florida not to vote the stupid way you did up north. It says the laws protect the state's reputation as a family-friendly tourist destination. Look, it's just north versus south stuff. It's just absurd. Look, remember what Florida is. Florida is arguably handled the pandemic worse than most states other than New York and California. And those are some of the hardest hit states. Florida had almost no protections, and we know that DeSantis lied about the COVID vaccine or the COVID the deaths. We know this. He's fired and jailed researchers whose job was to open up this type of stuff, to look into it. We also know he's kind of anti-vax because one of the Republican arguments is, he was talking with scientists and their stuff got taken down over YouTube, and it was generally an anti-vax, because otherwise it wouldn't have been an issue. So keep in mind, DeSantis is considered the front runner if it's not Trump, much to the chagrin of Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley. So the 2020 DeSantis slogan is DeSantis 2024, more dead protesters. That's it. That's what he's running. So please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Please follow me on Twitter at Faces Ideas. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you in the next one.